Kansas State continues to focus on size, revamping the offensive line in the transfer portal. Let's talk about it right here on Locked On Kansas State.
You are Locked On Kansas State, your daily podcast on the Kansas State Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Christian Rauh, and thank you so much for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen every single day. Welcome back to my everydayers. Let's dive into another episode here on this beautiful Wednesday, Wildcat Wednesday, if you will, at Locked On Kansas State. Before we dive into it, another portal edition on the offensive line, focusing on size. Got a lot to talk about in this one, and then we're going to dive into some utter disrespect on some of these national media pundits when it comes to the team and the leader of this squad. Before we dive into that, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com. Man, oh man. We are getting some size in the transfer portal. And as I mentioned on a show just a few days ago, when we talked about JB Nelson coming over in the transfer portal from Penn State, I didn't think offensive line was going to be a huge priority. It turned out to be, and now it is turning into yet again another huge strength of this roster heading into the new year. And what a great feeling to know what we have in front of Avery Johnson heading into the new season in his second year under center. And it just keeps getting better because Kansas State football has made another significant addition to its offensive line with the transfer of Terence Enos Jr. from the University of Pittsburgh. We're going to dive into Enos' background. We're going to go into his journey throughout college football, how his presence is poised to just really bolster this Wildcats offensive front, whether it's a starting or depth piece. And I think that's the best part about it. With JB Nelson, we talked about how the versatility is there. The same thing applies for Terence Enos Jr. Maybe not at the same exact level that we saw with JB Nelson, but still a really high-level player with some good play at a powerful level. Before we dive into his play at Pitt, let's get into a little background on him just to get to know the new Kansas State Wildcat. He attended Cass Technical High School in Detroit, Michigan in high school, earned accolades such as the Associated Press Division 1-2 All-State second team, and was ranked number 13 in the Detroit News 2021 class top 50 players. He was a 3-star offensive tackle in the class of 2021. Got lots of offers, a lot of Power 5 programs at the time. 2021 is still Power 5. SEC such as Arkansas, Kentucky, LSU. We saw Colorado, Iowa State, West Virginia, some Big 12 schools that went after him, Syracuse, Vanderbilt, and Purdue, but ultimately committed to the University of Pittsburgh, and that's where he played his collegiate career. In the 2021 season, he redshirted, which was the year that Pittsburgh actually won the ACC championship. That was with the Kenny Pickett fake slide, if you remember, 2021. He redshirted that year. So he was on the squad for Pat Narduzzi winning the ACC championship, got to have that. So he is an ACC champion, but didn't play that season. In 2022, though, he did appear in 9 games, primarily on special teams. 2023, played in 5 games and got the start when Pittsburgh played Notre Dame. So having the opportunity to showcase his skills against one of the top teams in the country in 2023, and overall played in 5 games that season. 2024, played in all 13 games, started in 4, and this is where that versatility comes in. 2 of those starting games at 4, 2 of those 4 starting games were at left tackle, 1 was at right tackle, and 1 was at left guard, demonstrating versatility across that offensive line. That seems to be the new focus. Versatility in size. And why am I saying size? Well, this guy is huge. He's massive. It's exciting. He is, last time I checked, what was it? 300 pounds, over 300 pounds. And now if you add Enos with Amos Talele, with JB Nelson, with George Fitzpatrick, Taylor Potier, and Andrew Langang. All of those are over 300 pounds. That is a huge offensive line, and that's not something we're normally used to saying when it comes to Kansas State's offensive line. At least not always, right? At least not always. According to PFF, 6'5", 315 is what Terence Enos Jr. says. Finally got the right tab open to let you know that one. And PFF, since we're on that conversation, wasn't the nicest to Terence Enos Jr. So if you are one of those ones that dive into the analytical numbers, you might not be as excited with this piece as, the tape. I think the eye test shows a lot. So you definitely look at some tape and some highlights, because I do think that there's some really fun things to look from him. And he's big. He's absolutely big. Versatility is huge. But when you look at his PFF grades, offensive grade 44.4, that was good enough for 611 out of 643 tackles qualified in that grade. His pass blocking grade was even lower at 41, which was 556 out of 601. So overall, those numbers aren't great in the eyes of PFF. But you take that how you want, right? Doesn't mean that just because your PFF scores are bad, that you're a bad football player. So it is what it is. Kansas State must have saw something in him, because they let a player walk away that they picked up in the transfer portal, and Brandon Snee, that came in the winter portal, and they let him go. And for the record, if we're just on this type of caveat, Brandon Snee's PFF numbers look good, a lot better than these ones. But they said, nah, he doesn't fit our bill, but let's bring in this guy, this mammoth of a man in Terence Enos Jr., 6'5", 315. So I'm all about this one as well. And it looked like he was loved in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh Sports Now, love that website. Got some good buddies who work over there. But when they talked about him entering the transfer portal after the spring game, he had a quote that said, Terence Enos put a quote out saying, "I'd like to thank the University of Pittsburgh, Coach Narduzzi, Coach Darvo, teammates, the entire staff for believing in and making these last 4 years truly special for me and an unbelievable experience. You have helped me mold me into the man I am today." So he sounds like a classy guy, sounds like a really great player and a team player. And if you are going to either be a starting player on this offensive line with Avery Johnson to protect, a potential Heisman candidate, a potential college football playoff starting quarterback, a potential Big 12 champion in 2025, or if you come off the bench as a depth player, and even if you are going to just see some time in a role play atmosphere like you did this past season, as you played in all 13 games, but only had 4 starts, you're doing it at a high level in Kansas State. Kansas State is in a way better position than Pitt is right now. Oh, and by the way, Big 12 over ACC all day. Absolutely. There's something going on with Pitt, if you want to just put it into context. And I don't know if it's a deeper problem, but when I was diving in and kind of doing some research for this episode, Enos was the 5th offensive lineman just in the spring portal window to make the decision to transfer out of the Pittsburgh Panthers. So something's going on in that locker room or that program. Maybe they're trying to do a retool, rebuild, not sure. But he had 4 years and then decided to move on for his final year. And just like with JB Nelson from Penn State, so 2 Pennsylvania area players coming into Manhattan. Really exciting stuff. So now you talk about the size, you talk about the versatility. What does that mean? Well, we think that Langang and Nelson are probably going to be either the right guard or right tackle, depending on what side you look at it. I think it could go either way. I put a poll out just the other day, and it looks like you think that JB Nelson is going to be the starting right tackle. I thank you for voting. If you haven't already, the poll's open. It never closes. Check it out on YouTube posts. And then you have Sam Heck, who's your center. There's no doubt about that. Left guard, I think you have Taylor Potier right now penciled in. I think it's in pencil, though. It's not in pen, because I think Amos Talele has an opportunity to battle for that spot as well. And then you have a player who started a game at left guard this last season in Terence Enos Jr. He also played some time at left tackle. And I think those are the 2 positions that are probably the most wide open. The left side of the offensive line right now, when it comes to the players I mentioned already, in Taylor Potier, Amos Talele, now Terence Enos Jr., and then you have Pastore, and you also have George Fitzpatrick. The players that don't make the starting roster are probably starting lineup, are probably still going to find a lot of playing time on this Kansas State roster. There might be almost a first and second team, a full depth, where if one of them have to hop in for another player, whether it's for a couple snaps or because of an injury or there's just a different substitution package. Normally that doesn't happen on the offensive line, but just hear me out here. You might not feel like there's that big of a downgrade, which is a great problem to have. If you have more than 5 players that you can say, I'm completely comfortable with them being on the starting lineup to protect Avery Johnson this season. And what we're hearing, the rumblings that we're hearing from Kansas State already in spring, from Brian LePack, from what we're getting from early rumblings of this coaching staff, it sounds like that's the case. They trimmed the fat a little bit. They pushed out the players that either they wanted to help go find a different place because of the 105 roster cuts. That doesn't seem to be happening. But again, as I mentioned in the past, this Kansas State coaching staff has a good heart, and they want to make sure these players have an opportunity to go land somewhere, land on their feet, because it's bigger than football. But there are more than 5 players that could have a starting grade. And with the portals closed, you got them. They're not going anywhere. So you have true depth. Now all you have to make sure is they stay healthy through the rest of spring camp, stay healthy through the summer while they continue to strengthen and work out and get strong, and then healthy in fall camp. And if that is the case, this offensive line, this historic offensive line group that we continue to talk about year in and year out, building NFL talent, continuing to be these legendary players, has another opportunity to be another historic class in 2025. On paper, right now, and maybe it's the momentum talking, folks. Maybe it's just the optimistic views that we're getting from Chris Kleiman. Maybe it's the feelings that the football team's doing great things and the basketball team's behind, and I'm having all my quarters on the football side right now. I don't know. But I have a lot of great feeling about this football team. And I'm willing to say, as of right now, I think this offensive line will be better than last year and maybe even better than 2022 squad, 2023 squad, when they had the likes of guys like Cooper Beebe. And they won a Big 12 championship. Really like what they have from here, especially from JB Nelson coming over. That was a huge addition. I think Terence Enos is a nice little cherry on top as well, because you add that more size. And these players who have ACC, Power 4, Big 10 starting experience that come into a new program bring a different light to the entire group, the entire position group. And dare I say, not just the position group, but the entire offense. You get a seasoned veteran in JB Nelson who played with Penn State, who was in the college football semis. No other player on that roster. George Fitzpatrick went to the national championship. Okay, you got that. But no other player on that roster has playing experience at that level. He brings in this type of presence, this veteran presence that can't be replicated anywhere else on the roster as of right now. That carries weight, especially in game preps, in the way just watching how they work and how they prepare, making sure that you take care of every rep in practice, treat it like it's a game. I love it. And you got true professionals coming in from Terence Enos Jr., who have played multiple years at a Power 4 level with JB Nelson, all on the offensive line. Oh, and continuing, Taylor Potier, Andrew Langang, Sam Heck, guys who have been playing this in Kansas State for a few years as well. Awesome feeling. Awesome feeling that we're getting from this recruiting class right now. I thought it couldn't get any better with the winter portal. And I didn't think we were going to get too many additions in this spring portal. And I still don't think they're done, by the way. Maybe on the offensive line they're done. But overall, I still think Kleiman's cooking. The momentum is strong, folks. I wasn't just blowing smoke. I'm I've been telling you this. The momentum keeps riding. The roller coaster's still going up. We're not even down the hill yet. That'll happen after Dublin when we're getting ready to say we. Love it. I'll tell you one thing I'm not happy about, though, because I'm ecstatic right now. I'm on cloud 9. But now things are about to shift. The absolute disrespect that national media is giving Kansas State is unreal. And we need to talk about it right here on Locked On Kansas State. This episode of Locked On Kansas State is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, from dining out and online shopping to entertainment, it is very easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. No, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, spending all in one place, so you stop managing your money and start building wealth. When I first started Monarch Money, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget even smarter and save more. So take out the stress of your finances with Monarch Money and take control. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. And welcome back to Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. We are growing every single day, and no one brings you Kansas State Wildcats coverage like we do here on Locked On Kansas State. It's going to shift focus here a little bit, and the tone is going to shift as well. The excitement adding Terence Enos Jr., ecstatic. Can't believe it. Love the offensive line additions. Love the portal. Have faith in Chris Kleiman. In Kleiman we trust. One thing I don't trust, though, some of these national media, some of these national pundits, if you will. And I know we're in these way too early kind of modes right now, but we got a way too early thing that showed some disrespect to Kansas State. On 3, Andy Staples posted a post-spring college football top 25. And if you could believe it, folks, Kansas State was not even there. And for the record as well, he put a little bit of next in line, an honorable mention, if you will. Went out to the top 30. Didn't even have Kansas State mentioned. So he doesn't have Kansas State as a top 30 team heading into the new year. Now, that's egregious. I'm sorry. Absolutely terrible. You're talking about a team who started off the season 7-1. Yes, they had a little bit of a downfall. Once they played Houston, when the loss to Houston, the wheels fell off. I get it. I understand it. But what happened here, Andy? Is it because Kansas State's not an SEC team or a Big Ten team? You forgot about them? You forgot this team doesn't exist? This is a team that had one of the greatest bowl comeback games that I've ever watched. And the momentum started taking off. One of the best recruiting classes in program history. No player of high importance left in either transfer portal. And these portal classes are outstanding. SEC schools like Tennessee wanted Avery Johnson, and he said, no, thanks. I'm going to sip on my strawberry lemonade. And you can't find a way to put Kansas State in your top 25. The teams ahead of it is quite egregious. Now, for the record, he has Texas number 1, Notre Dame 2, Clemson 3, Penn State 4, Ohio State 5. I don't have any problem with that top 5 because those are, those premier schools that do a lot of crazy things and bring in the 5-star recruits, and all of them found themselves in the college football playoff. I get that one. I can't throw shade there. And I don't disagree with them at all either. Penn State being in front of Ohio State, don't disagree with that. We just got JB Nelson, who was a Big Ten honorable mention offensive lineman that got taken out of a starting job because they're going to have 2 All-American guards backing up Drew Aller. So I don't disagree with that one. But what gets me here? Illinois at 9? What? Florida at 10? Did you see Florida last year? Auburn at 13? Look, I like Auburn. If I had to pick my favorite SEC school, it's probably Auburn. But Auburn didn't even make a bowl game last year. 13th? What? South Carolina at 12. They had the conversation of them just missing the college football playoffs. They had that argument last year. Okay. Michigan at 17, just because they beat Ohio State last year. Michigan wasn't a great team last year. And they're putting a lot of money into a freshman quarterback this year, and Bryce Underwood, assuming he starts. You think he's immediately good enough to make a 17th ranked team in the country? Miami lost a lot of players. Cam Ward, starting quarterback. I think Carson Beck is the answer for Miami. They got him at 20th. Nebraska? What has Nebraska done? 22? And then Iowa at 25. Now, unless they think that they're ranking punters, I'm not putting Iowa anywhere towards my top 25. Those are just a few teams that I think Kansas State are well above if you're talking about preseason picks. And you don't have them even in your top 30? Insane. Absolutely insane. If you are right now, if you're picking your way too early top 25 post-spring, where do you have Kansas State? Do you have them in your top 25? I do. Some other Big 12 teams that were listed here, Texas Tech at 11. The highest Big 12 team right now is Texas Tech at 11. This just shows me that these guys at On3, these guys at these national pundits, they must just look at their recruiting rankings and see, oh, they spent the most money. They must be good this year. Count them in. How many wins has Texas Tech had in the past couple seasons? Has McGuire got past the 9-win mark? No. 11th? So they're a top Big 12 team on this top 25. Arizona State comes in at 16. We'll see if they can do stuff without Cam Scatteraboo. Their wide receiver and quarterback group still pretty good. BYU at 18. BYU would have been my top pick if it wasn't for Kansas State in front of them. I think BYU is going to be good. And then you have Iowa State at 23. Okay, so 4 Big 12 teams. So that just shows you right there that just based on those 4 and then not having any other team, that this guy, Andy Staples, thinks Kansas State at the best is going to finish 5th in the Big 12 as of right now. No way. No way. We're going to dive more into this in the future. We're going to do a whole series where we're going to dive into every single Big 12 team, little spring checkup, as you will, to begin the month of May. I'm going to be doing a little traveling, so those can be some nice episodes just to make sure that we have something on the feed while I'm doing some traveling. If there is anything breaking, we will break some news. Don't worry. We'll have you covered. We'll have multiple episodes that day if need be. But we're going to dive into every single Big 12 team, keep you covered, and kind of keep you informed of what you've missed. And at Texas Tech at 11, they spent a lot of money, but doesn't mean that they're a top 11 team in the country. Get out of here. Get out of here. The disrespect didn't end, by the way. It all came at one point. All came in like a 24-hour span. First, the top 25 disrespecting the entire team. And then we got ESPN deciding to absolutely disrespect the leader of the Kansas State Wildcats. We'll do that one as we finish up this show right here on Locked On Kansas State. And welcome back to Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. I told you the tone was going to shift because it's just egregious. It's insane that these people that say they watch ball, that say that they are all about college football, everything college football in the eyes of what I'm about to talk next, and they just completely missed the ball here. Just completely missed the ball. Greg McElroy of ESPN put out his top college football quarterbacks heading into the season. And he is the host of Always College Football, right? Gotta love that. And top 10, Avery Johnson, nowhere to be found. Number 1, Cade Klubnik of Clemson. Number 2, John Mateer of Oklahoma, who just transferred from Washington State. Sam Levitt, first on the Big 12 list, comes in at 3. Drew Aller, number 4. Garrett Nussmeier of LSU at 5. Carson Beck at 6. Norris Sellers from South Carolina at 7. Sawyer Robertson, another Big 12 out of Baylor, comes at 8. DJ Lagway from Florida at 9. And Hayes King from Georgia Tech at 10. Before I even dive into it, think of that list I just told you. How many of those right now, before I dive in and give you my opinion, would you put Avery Johnson in front of? It's got to be more than one. I know that. I know you're saying more than one. You're probably yelling at the the feed right now, whether you're listening in the car or watching here on YouTube, and you're yelling a number. And I'm going to tell you it's more than one. But let's start from the bottom. Hayes King, good numbers, good completion ratings, sure. But he's not better than Avery Johnson. If you want to just play the stat game, let's do that real quick. If you want to just play the stat game, then you can make the argument. Fine, I'll let you say it about Avery Johnson being not a top 10 quarterback. And the only reason I would say that is because Avery Johnson threw 10 interceptions last year. That is the only downfall that I can give you for Avery Johnson. In his first year as a starting quarterback in a Power 4 level, with a subpar wide receiver group, with a subpar play calling offensive coordinator, in his first year learning a system as a dual threat quarterback, might I add. Oh, and by the way, he wasn't always 100%. Threw 10 interceptions, but he threw 25 touchdowns. He completed just under 60% of his passes, threw for over 2,700 yards in his first year as a starter. But the 10 interceptions is probably what's pushing these people off the list. If you had to hear somebody say, make an argument why Avery Johnson's not there, these pundits who probably don't know much about Kansas State football anyways would probably just pull up his ESPN career stats like I just did right there and say that's why. And then carry on for a whole conversation and go to the grave with it. It's the only way they'd be able to do this. Hayes King, though, I'll give him credit. Very, very good when it comes to completions. 73% completion rating. Only threw 2 interceptions last year. 14 touchdowns. But on a Georgia Tech team, it's not a Georgia Tech team of the past with like Calvin Johnson. It's not those kind of teams. He's just not as good of a quarterback as I think his stats give out to say. DJ Lagway, people love to talk about DJ Lagway. I don't see it. I could be completely wrong on him, sure. But people have him being like the next best player in the NFL. They got him ready to go in mock drafts when he's eligible. They can't wait. Last season, he threw for under 2,000 yards, had only 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. His QBR ranking was like in the 70th rank in the country. Now, I know he didn't play all the games because he was injured, but I wasn't impressed. There was maybe a couple good moments, but Florida wasn't a good team last year. And you can say they had a tough schedule. Okay, fine. But I wasn't impressed. And then I'll just throw one more out there as well. Why did Carson Beck transfer from Georgia to a different school? Wasn't a good quarterback last year. That's why. Wasn't that great of a quarterback. If you want to look and just play numbers, he threw for 3,400 yards, 28 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. 12 interceptions. That's more than Avery Johnson. You threw the ball a lot. Got it. But do you think that Carson Beck is going to be able to just one-for-one replace Cam Ward and get them to be a team that is in ACC contention? That might actually happen because the ACC is very weak, with the exception of Clemson and Miami and maybe SMU if they continue that up. But I don't think it's deserving of top 10. So there's 3 right there. I think I could go even farther on there. I think John Mateer probably deserves top 10 because he was great at Washington State, but pushing him all the way up to 2 just because he transferred to Oklahoma is a stretch, in my opinion. I think we could have a conversation. I think one of these days we should maybe have Richie Bradshaw from Locked On Sun Devils on about comparing Sam Leavitt to Avery Johnson, because I think that comparison is a lot closer than people actually give Avery Johnson credit for. And they got Sam Leavitt at 3 on this list, and Avery Johnson's nowhere to be found. I think Avery's better than Sawyer Robertson, even though I think Robertson's a good QB. So if I had to pick where Avery Johnson was going on this list, he's at worst 8. Means he's on the list. And if we're talking top 25, as we finish that up as well, Kansas State's at least 20th. There was at least 4 or 5 teams that didn't deserve to be there. Insane. Absolutely insane. What do you think about this? Does it even matter? Because we're in the last day of April, right? We're going to get the first chance to prove it on the field before anybody else does, because we open the college football season against Iowa State in Dublin, Ireland, the opening kickoff of the year. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. So be the most informed fan with rapid changes this college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Thank you so much. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And this has been Locked On Kansas State.